Hey guys, here we have Photoshop images of Hubble photographs of the galaxies in our universe. As you can tell, some of these galaxies are vertical, some of them are horizontal, some of them are, like I said, in a 35 degree, 15 degree, 40, 45, 90 degree. Uh, Depending on where the angle of these galaxies are, that tells you where uh, in our universe they are at. And you can see, uh, like this one's angle going this way. Let me see another one somewhere. This one's almost 90 degree vertical. This one right here. Let me see something else that could be. Let me see. This one's got an angle this way, kind of like maybe higher than 45. Um, Up here, this one's got a almost higher than horizontal. Horizontal will be straight this way, so it's a little higher, different angle. What I'm trying to say is this one's straight up. Uh, this going this angle this way. See, if you could look at these all these galaxies, they all have different angles. They could be vertical, horizontal, 35, 15, 5 degree inclination. Depending on the angle, that tells you where in the universe those specific stars are at, depending on the distance of the glow. If it's radius, it's the furthest one. So that tells you the distance, and then the angle tells you what part of the sphere, a circular sphere, location they are in our universe. Let me show you guys what my theory is, and uh, I'll tell you. Okay, here's a sphere, a circular, meaning that's the edge of the universe. I believe the universe is basically a cone shape. Uh, Beginning of the Big Bang is a small circular, where what had actually happened, and as time progressed, the cone got larger and larger and larger. So we're somewhere in the middle. Most people believe that the center of the galaxy is between us and the center right here to the Big Bang. So if this is Earth right here, and this is the center of the galaxy, they believe that from here to here, to the beginning of the Big Bang, that's the center. And that's wrong. The center is actually center line of the sphere, or like I said, the center of the cone. So it's in between this spot and this spot, and I'll show you in a minute. This is a larger view of the cylinder. See, actually, the universe, I believe, is a cylinder, rotating cylinder. As you know, and astronauts, they spin in a centrifugal machine, and that creates gravity and pushes them back. So I believe this universe actually spins in a motion, and either way, I don't know if it's spinning this way or this way, but it's spinning in one direction, and it creates gravity. So all the planets are pushed to the edge of the cylinder, which is our universe. So all the planets, galaxies, and everything in is pushed toward the fabric of time and space, which is actually a real fabric. If you think of it that way, you'll understand it perfectly well. So the universe is a cylinder, which is made of a fabric. We'd call it time and space, and everything floats on top of it. When I say float, it's between the planets or galaxies and the fabric of time and space, which is a fabric. And they float because in between the galaxies or planets and to the fabric, there's a space between that. So they're actually floating on top of it, like just floating. They're not touching the fabric of time and space, but it dents the fabric, as you can see right here. This is the sun, and this is a dentation caused by the sun or the planets or Earth. So we all cause a dentation on the fabric of time and space, the actual fabric. but there's a gap between the planets or galaxies and the fabric itself. There's a floating space in between those two. It looks like we're actually in midair, but we're not. We're actually on top of the fabric, but actually there's a little space between us, the planets, and the fabric itself that makes us look like we're actually floating. Just think of it as the electron and the atom. There's a little space between the electron and the atom. They're not touching, but they're interconnected. Same thing with the planets and the fabric itself. There's a space between us, something connected to us, but not directly. It's invisible. It's a little space between us. We're actually floating on top of it, but we have to float on top of the fabric, which is a cylinder, round fabric, or a tube or cylinder, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, as I showed you earlier with the galaxies, like this one is a horizontal galaxy, and this is a vertical galaxy, depending to our view of the telescope from Earth. So we see the angles from Earth on different angles of the galaxy. That's because they're on either showing what part of the sphere they're at. So they could be anywhere around this sphere or circle, and the angle of the galaxy tells you where they're at. So I believe this is our cylinder, and in the center of the cylinder, I call it a void, and because there's nothing. Remember, everything, all the matter. When I say matter, that includes planets, comets, and mostly galaxies and everything, the sun and everything, all the stars. They're floating on top of the fabric, or in this case, a fabric which resembles a sphere or circle fabric or a cylinder. So everything is rolling on top of it, basically. In reality, we're floating on top, or rolling around the cylinder as the cylinder spins. As it spins, it creates gravity, and all the planets are pushed toward the fabric, and we create a detention on the bottom. Anyway, so in the center of the sphere or tube, there's nothing. I call it the void, because all the planets are on the edge of the cylinder, pushed toward the cylinder, which creates a gravity for the planets. Now, obviously, the planets also create its own gravity for its citizens. Like Earth has enough mass that it pulls us down to the Earth, but Earth is pulled down to the fabric. See what I'm saying? So the fabric pulls the planets and galaxies. In this case, Earth pulls us to the Earth because it has its own mass. It's a win-win. Anyway, as you go to the center of the cylinder, I call it negative gravity, because anywhere along the fabric, it's zero gravity. We float around like nothing. But as soon as we get away from the fabric itself and go to the center of the cylinder, there's zero gravity. Not only zero, I call it negative gravity. Remember, I mentioned this is a scientific fact. You got two twin brothers, one living in a mountain. Age is quicker than the one living in a sea level. And the mountain has more gravity, so it pulls down more at the spinning motion of our electrons, so it slows down our electrons. By slowing our electrons, the one living in the mountains ages quicker. So I believe that if you could travel to the center of the cylinder of the universe, time slows down, because you don't have no mass or no fabric. Also is considered like a mass, but it's not mass because it's spinning and creates gravity. So if you're away from the spinning cylinder sphere, in other words, if you're away from the planets, not going this way, but going to the center, then you actually age slower. Time slows down because there's no gravity of any planets, and there's no gravity pull of the actual time and space. So basically what I'm trying to say is planets create gravity that pull, in this case Earth creates its own gravity that pulls us. So gravity actually makes us age quicker. But if you also get away from the fabric of time and space itself, which is also creating its own gravity that pulls the planets, also makes us age quicker. Any kind of gravity that pulls us in our atoms and slows our spin velocity of the electrons will actually make us age quicker. So if you get away from a mass, like in this case mountains or planets, you're gonna age slower. But if you get away from the actual fabric of time and space, you're gonna time's gonna slow down. Okay, same thing with the black hole. The closer you get to a black hole, the time slows down. But in this case, the same concept is when you travel toward the center of the universe, not going this way. This is not the center, not from the Earth to the Big Bang of the galaxy, the center going straight line. No, what I'm saying, the center is actually inside the cylinder. The center of the cylinder is actually the center. So this void, circular void, which is the center of the cylinder, is actually the reality of the center. And the center is, most people say, oh, it's antimatter or something that repels matter because there's a void. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that here, you don't have fabric of time and space. It's a way, the fabric of time and space is on the edges of the sphere, but in the center there's nothing. So here, it's a void where time slows down. The more you get to the center of this cylinder, and the only way you can't really, black holes create a jet stream when they collide, and they go up into the center of the, above the center, into the center of the universe, and they create ripples on the sides of the fabric. So it creates ripples all the way around the fabric, black holes do, and they shoot down a jet stream. We can't have any rockets technology that can shoot us upward. They can shoot us around, floating around the fabric, and that's including comets, asteroids, rockets. Everything floats around on top of the fabric, but nothing goes on top. We don't have technology to go on top of. In other words, we'll have to go actually on top of the sun toward the center. I believe the only way to do that, maybe solar sails using the energy from the sun, pushing us up as far as we can. And that's as far as I can tell you. I don't know what other technology can actually take us up, because the rocket's propulsion cannot allow us to go upward, because our mass will pull us down. So the fabric of time and space will actually be pulling us down instead of going up. If we can figure out a way to go to the center of the sphere, time will actually slow down. It's very complicated, but let me see if I can show you another photograph. Okay, this shows right here, let's say this is Earth right here. You got the telescope, the Hubble telescope, and see these angle, the galaxies. That tells you the 45 or 90 degrees or 35 or 15 or 5 degrees. Depending on what the degrees are, the angle tells you what position of the sphere location they are. This is the actual universe, a cone shape. In other words, it's smaller at the beginning and then it gets larger, larger, larger. So that's my understanding, because the only fact I have, well, the only proof is the actual photographs from Hubble, because it shows the angle of the galaxies, and that proves to you that galaxies have an angle, and that tells you what section of the actual sphere they're at. And depending on how small or further they are, they could be further over here. They could be 90 degree over here, or horizontal, vertical, and it tells you the distance depending on what the location of the cone they are. So there you go, and let me show you something else. Okay, here's my proof, and this is it's common sense. I kind of drew a line on the bottom representing the actual fabric of time and space, which is a fabric, and you cannot have a galaxy standing up. Okay, that's impossible, because gravity of the fabric of time and space will pull it down like this. So all the galaxies have to be flat, parallel to the fabric on the bottom. They cannot be standing up. So when you see a galaxy this way in a telescope, they're not standing on top of like this on a fabric of time and space. They're actually like this. So they'll be rolling down into the sphere, the cylinder. So they have to be flat like this, not standing. So when you see a photograph of galaxies like this, that means that they're somewhere in the cylinder location, and they're more likely this way. So this is not reality. This is only not real. This is real. They're all flat, parallel to the universe.